come close. I got a revelation for you guys. Touring is hard. Harder than I think a lot of people realize, and a big thing shining a light on it right now is Avenged Sevenfold talking about this. There's an interview making the rounds right now of M. Shadows from Avenged Sevenfold talking about how it's pretty much impossible now to make money from touring. Evidently, the touring landscape has been a lot more despondent and has grown very detached and very difficult to navigate ever since the pandemic. And multiple things that are touched on in this interview, which you can go look at yourself. I'm just going to be giving my own perspective and providing some different stuff about it. There's a lot of things implied here talking about how people at Avenged Sevenfold's level is having such a difficult time making money and managing everything that they can't imagine what other contemporary bands are going through. A big part of their own point of reference for this is the fact that they are such an S-tier band, and one big thing that M. Shadows emphasizes in this is the fact that they are working with people from such big backgrounds, very wealthy people, very talented people that are very efficient at what they do and obviously demand more of a high dollar, or it is in their pay grade to be able to do that. And I'm sure that this is a privilege that a lot of bigger bands have in terms of being comfortably situated enough to be able to support these lifestyles and support all of these different people coming together to make a tour happen. And most of the time, touring isn't the reason that you make a lot of money. It's more about the merchandising, it's more about putting your name out there. Although when you get bands as big as like Avenged Sevenfold or a Metallica or something, you're not necessarily doing it for exposure anymore. You reach another tier entirely. And M. Shadows makes a prediction that you're going to see a lot of bands either stop touring or have to disband as a result of how hard it is to tour now and how it's become increasingly difficult. But I want to take this a step further and shine a light on smaller bands and how difficult it is to tour full stop, let alone in the current climate where it is growing more and more difficult to support yourself through touring. I have heard so many stories of smaller bands, bands that I love, bands that I support, having to literally sell merchandise to get gas money at each tour, working the merch table for hours on end after a show is done for the sole purpose of being able to get gas and food money. Most of the time, the things that they're renting, if that, are not that big. They're not that supportive of their general lifestyle. They don't have enough room for what they need, and they are having to constantly beg and barter and steal in a way to try to make it to the next destination, and if then, maybe only hope to break even or go under. And sadly, that is the harsh truth of why you see a lot of smaller bands only tour in their direct vicinity, or at most tour for a little bit and either disband in the process or after the fact don't tour going forward. It is a very arduous sort of thing where most of the time smaller bands are paying out of their own pockets, and a lot of smaller bands are working side jobs, they're working day jobs, and so they're having to support their passion project with money out of their own pocket, and probably aren't even going to make more money at the end of the day for what they are putting out there. And it is a harsh reality that I think a lot of people don't fully realize, and that's why I always say to try your best to support bands that are putting their stuff out through different websites, putting it out through Bandcamp. And it might be a hot take, but as much as people don't like to support certain labels because they feel like it's sellout or something like that, if you love a band that you have enjoyed for a while and they get signed to a label and that label is backing them in their record, they're probably making more money through that than they are ever going to make through their own digital sales, through their own merchandise drops, no matter how many clothes they sell, no matter how many hats and hoodies people wear of them, no matter how many shows people go to. Because the margin of people that are actually going to purchase something from the shows that they go to for that specific band, specifically a smaller band, if they're opening for a bigger band that people would be much more apt to buy merchandise from, you can see why those trials and tribulations that smaller bands face can make it very difficult to support yourself via touring. And with a lot of stuff that M. Shadows is putting out there in this interview, it is more and more apparent that it is harder than ever to support yourself via touring, because traveling is much more expensive, inflation has dominated a lot of things, and that's just talking about the United States. The continental United States can be very difficult to transport yourself, to travel, to support the money that you need for gas, for food, for wherever you're going to stay at. If you're crashing with a homie or something, it's a little bit better, and as well as just booking the venues as a whole can oftentimes take a little bit of money too, depending on what you're going to get, who you're wanting to open for. Are you reached out to? Do you reach out to something? There's a whole battleground when it comes to the culture of touring and how they are put together, and so much more going on behind the scenes that people aren't aware of. And something else is you are oftentimes having to help pay a crew to help assemble and deassemble your stuff, to help make stuff happen, to pay an agent to try to book you, as well as transportation if you're not the one driving, people to market your stuff. The list goes on, but when you look at smaller bands, most of the stuff, they're homegrown. They're doing that shit themselves. They're the ones breaking their backs to get their stuff in and out and to transport it and to market themselves and to create the merchandise and all that sort of stuff, as well as advertise their merch at the shows they go to. I've seen it with my own two eyes. I've heard it with my own two ears, and it is very hard. And that's why it's very important to try to support local bands, to support people that are keeping underground metal alive, because like M. Shadow said, if Avenged Sevenfold is at this level and they are struggling to support themselves when they could probably go to like any major country in the world and sell out an entire stadium with no one else supporting them, that is very telling of the dynamic that touring is in and the position it's in, and that's very unfortunate. But at the end of the day, a lot of these musicians are doing it because they're passionate, because they love it, and that's why they deserve a lot of support and kudos for what they are doing for their music and for the community, and helping to keep the music spark alive for whatever genre they're performing in. What are your guys' opinions of this topic? You can let me know down in the comment section below. I can't wait to hear it. Agree or disagree, there is no wrong answer. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is. My name is Jay Morris, and I'm signing off saying farewell.